this week's video, I'm going to show you how you can quickly and easily warp up your Sprang project using a warping board. And I'm going to be using this piece of cardboard right here for this, but you could also use a book or a picture frame. Anything that you can wrap the yarn around and that is going to give you about the right size warp. So this piece of cardboard is 12 inches long, so I'm going to get a warp that is about 12 inches long. Now, to make the warping a little easier, I'm actually going to use something like this little dowel right here, and I'm going to be warping over this as well as the piece of cardboard, and this is just going to make it a lot easier to prep the piece of the warp, to take it off of the board and put it onto my loom. So to hold this onto my board, I'm actually just going to use a couple pieces of tape. Okay, so it doesn't have to be super secure. We just don't want to have to hold on to it while we're warping. I do have two colors here. I'm going to warp the sort of rust color on first, if I can find the correct end, and then I'm going to add some sections of the yellow. Alright, so let's stick, because we're going to be working left to right, I'm going to go ahead and put my ball of yarn off to the right. And then you have a couple of options on starting. You can just make a tail and hold it there as you warp around. You could also tie it to this, or you could use a piece of tape and just tape it down here in the corner. What I am going to do is I'm just going to wrap it around and loosely tie it to my little spacer dowel here. Okay, so I'm just going to start wrapping around like so, and try to not allow your tension to get too tight even with the spacer, because you don't want it to be difficult to get your warp off of whatever you've warped onto, whatever you've used as a warping board. Because if this is really tight, it's going to be a little hard to slide this yarn off at the end, and you don't want your threads to get messed up, so you want it to slide off nice and easy. Okay, I think that's wide enough, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have as much of a tail as I want, and then I'm just again going to lightly secure this to the little dowel, because now I'm going to add some of this yellow on. And for the yellow, I'm not going to secure the ends because I'm actually going to tie them together loosely. So I'll show you one and then I'll do the rest of them not necessarily on camera. Okay, so this is the location of where my first yellow yarn is going to go. And again, because I'm just putting in 2 wraps each spot, I'm not going to secure this at the bottom. I'm just going to hold on to the tail. Wrap it around twice. And then I'm actually just going to cut this and very, very loosely tie it, mostly just so that it stays in place. so I've finished adding my yellow sections of yarn, and this is now ready to be transferred to the loom. And there are a couple of ways we can do this. One is that we can slide 2 of the dowels. So this is going to be one of the dowels that I'll be working, that I'll put this on the loom with. You can just slide this in, slide them to the end, and then when you take out this, your whole warp's going to loosen up a little bit, and then you could just slide the whole thing off. You may want to rubber band a second, so let me put this back in. So you may want to rubber band a second dowel over the top of the first dowel, like so. So you'd rubber band these 2 together, and that way your yarn is sandwiched between the 2 dowels, and that'll help keep your yarns in line and in place. However, I'm actually going to be doing this a different way, as I'm going to be filming it for another video, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that's going to be on a separate video, and I will come back once I have done that. I'll just do a quick show you what that is, and then we'll take this off and put it on the loom. Okay, so that should hold everything in place, and I can now slide this off. So I'm actually going to take off my spacer dowel, and that will loosen things up. And now I can go ahead and slide my warp off of the warping board. Now, if you attached your warp to your end dowels in a manner that isn't as secure as the chaining and then the tying like I've done here, you'll want to be a little bit more careful when you slide that off, because you don't want your threads to get all out of order. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next week.